Alright, here it all is. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see the part numbers. This is a 2.0 engine, flywheel, the actual clutch shoes, exhaust setup for the NT18T, screws to hold the exhaust to the engine, flywheel nut, flywheel collar, flywheel gasket, and clutch bell with bearings. Not pictured is the clutch pad springs, but I've got those as well. We're going to slap all these together onto the engine and mount it into the car. Okay, this segment is going a little chaotic, but I just waiting on clutch parts, so turns out I didn't have them all. Yay. The exhaust I'm going to figure out next. Basically I'm going to cut it right about here so that I can use this 180 degree U-bend to actually bend towards the rear, so that I can fit the pipe like so. That would be perfect in my book. I might have to cut the pipe down a bit or stick it out the rear, but yeah, we'll figure something out. That looks hideous. I'm not going to do that. Well, if you're following along at home, we're making a couple changes here for easier to find hardware. So I've got the X-ray clutch shoes that require the little coil springs, and this guy is an HSP clutch on an X-ray flywheel, and it fits. And you know, they just put the spring all the way around the clutch shoes, and this is actually the HSP nut. So the X-ray engine, this is hard to do single-handed, trust me when I say this, the X-ray engine had a shaft that was this shape at the very tip of it. This one does not, and you see it's threaded there, so this nut isn't all the way down on there. I'm going to have to shave off a bit of the end of the crank to let that sit all the way down. But basically, this is a HSP, insert part number here, I'll find it and put it on the screen. And then the HSP 16th scale shoes that are used on a vehicle like the Thunderfire. Those are much, much, much cheaper and easier to find. So I'm going to use those with the Team Infinity 0.05 engine and a X-ray NT18 flywheel and the little pinching sleeve thing for the flywheel, which will let me still use the X-ray clutch bell that I used originally. It still slides right on there. So that'll be good to go. We'll shave that down, and hopefully this next cut I'll have a clutch on an engine here. Just to point out, I took cut with a Dremel like 2 or 3 threads off the tip of this, just to make it a little shorter, so that the flywheel nut that comes with the HSP stuff will fit on this and cinch the flywheel down. Okay, hopefully last clutch related segment. All of these videos have been taken within about 2 hours of each other, so it's kind of spread out here. But that is the that is the HSP clutch. You see that kind of shaving on the leading edge there? As it spins this direction, that way. On the leading edge near the posts here, I've had to shave down just a touch. Just used a bit of sandpaper to let this clutch roll free. Then I also put a shim here to raise the clutch bell up off the flywheel just a bit, because it actually sits down on that recessed piece of the flywheel. But boom, there it is. That is a regular clutch. It doesn't look, I guess, or sound like it's moving free, but I promise it is. There's no resistance. I'll wrap that spring around there. We'll put one last shim on the end here, and the nice thing about the HSP is you don't need like an E-clip or anything. It's just a 3mm screw. So we'll get that together and then try to figure out some exhaust setups. Alright, well, the engine is attached. Rolls just as free as ever. Got that clutch on there. That's an X-ray clutch with HSP clutch shoes and an HSP flywheel nut with an X-ray flywheel. It's a bit of a Frankenstein there, but this whole car's a Frankenstein, let's be honest. Everything's in place. I've got the motor reattached there. So right now we're working on exhaust, and I thought I'd bring you this because those are our 2.5mm holes intended for these long 2.5mm bolts to go all the way through to the other side. The issue is, since that's such a strange size, I figured, yeah, I'll order the bolts. Of course I'm going to need the bolts. What I failed to also pick up were the required nuts. So I've got these bolts with no nuts that attach to the other end. Luckily, this M3 screw successfully threads, you can see the thread marks, into the engine block. So we're using an M3 screw through the exhaust manifold, which you'll notice I've cut down significantly because this wacky bendy job here was not going to fit, wasn't going to fit anywhere on this car. So what we're doing is a stinger right out the rear, just like I said I would. I'm going to try to seal this, the down pipe off, and drill out the rear of it so it's a true stinger. But just like that, with a small angled piece attached to the engine and a section of clear tubing. This is a Traxxas part. Forgive me for not remembering the part number. That's what they actually use on the Nitro Stampede for its exhaust system. But yeah, I'm going to slap that manifold on with the clear tubing, its gasket, and 3mm screws into the engine, and then we'll try to figure out the pipe. Well, since you saw it last, I was working on exhaust. Also in this cut, I got the receiver and everything on, and I cut down the little piece of rubber that was holding this down. There was nowhere to put the pull start, so now it's just going to kind of hang out there. It's not that big, it's not that bad. It was sticking out about that far, and that was really annoying, but now I've cut off the little piece of rubber that was letting it push out, and we shouldn't have any issues with that. So without further ado, this should be ready to start. World's first Nitro Losi Mini T. That electronics package there is interesting. The receiver, SR215, is right up here on the front shock tower. Power switch just behind it, and yeah, don't have the transmitter with me because it's not a big deal right now, but this is a single cell 800 milliamp LiPo. Got your throttle open, throttle close, brake, which is rubbing on the clutch, locks your rear wheels, rolls freely. Of course, left and right is stock, and the exhaust setup here. There's the 3mm screws into the engine itself with a section of silicone fuel line tubing. I had to drill this area out a little bit just to get it to fit. And this is the NT18T pipe, which I've drilled the end out of and basically clamped the actual normal exhaust down. So now it's a proper stinger, just flow out. And back pressure pipe all the way up to our airplane fuel tank. This airplane fuel tank is a Sullivan 1 ounce fuel tank. It has 3 connections. The bottom yellow one you'll see there is actual fuel pickup. The top yellow one is what comes from the exhaust. That one allows you to get the pressure into the tank, and this little clear guy is how I refuel it. You'll see this little silver plug here. Pop this silver plug off, which is hard to do single-handed, and you're ready to fill. And what we're going to use to fill is a fuel bottle that has a kind of, I guess, fuel line to brass adapter in it. So basically, this will let me, put pressure on it. The air will relieve itself through the exhaust system, but that brass piece will plug in right there, which again is impossible to do single-handed. But plug it in there, squeeze some fuel in there, and we're going to stop this section and make a giant cut going to me starting the engine. Should be pretty exciting. Before we do, that guy was about to fall off. Brand new engine. Feels good, man. Oh, great.